So it's about 5 after 6, and I think that we'll start. Uh, Good evening. My name is Catherine. I am with the admissions office at the University of Calgary Faculty of Law, and with me is student advisor Hillary, who will assist with answering any questions that we might have at the end of the session. Um, I'm going to start with a territorial acknowledgement. And I'm just going to turn off my, um, there we go. At least I can't see myself now. So the University of Calgary is located in the heart of southern Alberta and acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation within Alberta, Nose Hill Métis District 5, and Elbow Métis District 6. So I just want to give you a little bit of a sense of what we're going to talk about tonight. We have a lot to get through in our allotted time, and there will be time for questions when the presentation is over. So we're going to start with not talking about the admissions process, but why you should consider applying to us in the first place. So I'll tell you a little bit about our program. I'll provide you with some statistics for our entering classes because I know how much students and prospective students love statistics. We'll go through some of the main points of our admissions process. We'll cover tuition and funding for law school, and finally ways that you can find out more information if you want. Then there will be questions. So one of the first things I like to tell our prospective students about UCalgary Law is that we see you as a person and not a number. And I know that sounds a little trite, but we have always admitted our class using a holistic admissions process. 47% of our 1L class right now agreed that this was an important factor for them in choosing a law school. And what holistic admissions means is that we consider more than your statistical profile, which is your GPA and your LSAT score, when we're assessing files for admission. We consider work experience, non-academic pursuits, a statement of purpose and perspective, where you can share what you most want the admissions committee to know about you. Our students are well-rounded, engaged individuals who come from many different academic programs, backgrounds, and cultures. And no admissions factor considered has a specific weight. We think this leads to a more dynamic learning environment where various views, perspectives, and ideas are exchanged, debated, and considered. We could actually have higher statistics if we didn't take into account everything else about an individual, but we feel that our students bring more to the table than simply their grades and their LSAT score. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we very cleverly call the Calgary curriculum. And you'll see that there's a bullet there about the legal profession in Canada changing a great deal in this time. So what do we mean when we talk about a wider range of skills and knowledge than lawyers have needed in the past? Law schools and indeed the law profession are famous or infamous for lauding traditions and relying very heavily on an identity and what worked in the past. But I think that can prevent them from focusing on the present and, more importantly, the future. Every year, UCalgary Law introduces new courses in law that reflect the world we are living in and anticipate the legal world that you will be working in. We have comprehensive courses in all the fundamental areas of law, and we have specific strengths in business law, natural resources, energy and environment law, and we deliver on teaching emerging areas of law such as AI, technology, privacy, and regulatory frameworks in emerging areas. For example, some of our new courses this year include biotechnology and cyber threats, national security and foreign interference, restorative justice, critical minerals, regulatory framework, and geopolitics. The Calgary curriculum is structured to foster deep learning through serious engagement with both fundamentals of law and theoretical and practical considerations. And there is a constant need to anticipate the future of legal education. One of the unique things we do through the Calgary curriculum is we offer block courses, 3-week block courses at the beginning of each of your years. You actually have block courses in first year law for your first 3 weeks of law school, as well as your first 3 weeks in your winter semester. And then you'll have a block week in each of the winter semester of your second year, which we refer to as 2L, and in a 3L. So in 1L, we offer Law and Foundations 1 and 2. And in Law Foundations 1, we'll introduce you to legal methods and sources of law, legal and judicial reasoning and analysis, and critical perspectives on law, including legal theory and history. Going to law school is very much like learning a new language. You are teaching your brain to think in a very specific way. It's a very immersive time where you're more likely to be focusing on your new friends in law school and the way you're thinking and the things you're learning than a lot of people in your outside world. Is a common observation that people sometimes make about that time. In your second semester in Law and Foundations 2, you're going to focus more on legal writing and research, communicating, including client interviews and counseling, as well as advocacy, and we'll be using some performance-based learning methods. Our second year in-depth 3-week course on negotiations is a very critical course. You'll see that what we try to do is scaffold your knowledge from first year and build on that knowledge in your second and third years. Lawyers negotiate. It doesn't matter what kind of law you're wind up practicing or interested in, you'll always need strong negotiation skills. So we're going to provide a solid theoretical and practical foundation for becoming an effective negotiator. And in your third year, you'll take an advocacy course where you get to choose between a criminal or a civil trial. And you'll actually do a trial from start to finish in front of a Court of King's Bench justice, either with or without a jury. And it's a very immersive experience. It's really a capstone of third year. And even if you're worried about public speaking and those sorts of things, which many students are, students almost always consider it to have been a major highlight of their 3 years in law school. So again, the Calgary curriculum, I like to say it has a number of components: theoretical, practical, clinical, and contemporary. We're always emphasizing integrating practice with theoretical knowledge. And that may sound very normal to you. You're probably used to experiential learning. But when we first started this law school almost 50 years ago, we were one of the only law schools that really understood that to deeply understand something, you need both the theoretical knowledge as well as a chance to put that into practice. Now, almost every law school and many other areas of academic pursuit will use examples of experiential learning, but it's really part of our DNA, part of our very ethos to do that, and we do it very well. We also have a very good mooting program at the University of Calgary. Some of the major moots that we do are listed on this slide. There are some moots that are just for first year students that get your feet wet. There's some that are of national scope, such as the Wilmsonshire Environmental Law Moot, which the last time round was won by the University of Calgary over McGill. But there's lots of different opportunities for you to moot. And if you're wondering what mooting is, it's kind of like a practice trial. You're going to get a question of law, and there's going to be people on either side of that arguing for or against it. And it's a great way of learning and honing legal research and writing skills, as well as your advocacy skills. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our joint programs and certificates that we are very, very proud of at UCalgary Law. One is the certificate in common law in French. We are one of two law schools that partner with the University of Ottawa to offer this. What it allows you to do is to actually take courses while you're at Calgary in French taught by a University of Ottawa Faculty of Law teacher. And then you will spend the first term of your third year in law school actually at the University of Ottawa in their Francophone program. The reason that this is such an important program is that it gives you the ability to gain valuable advocacy and written legal skills in French, as well as a deep understanding of language rights in Canada. Many prestigious clerkships to clerk with the Supreme Court or a court of appeal often they are looking for people who are proficient in law in both of Canada's official languages. But quite apart from that, participating in this program is really important for access to justice issues. Being able to provide legal services in both official languages and having legal careers where legal training and proficiency in both languages is available is a real asset. It's important for anyone interested in working in government and particularly the federal government. We have a brand new, as of last year, concentration in Aboriginal and Indigenous law, and that's aimed at equipping students with advanced skills, knowledge, and perspectives, and approaches to legal practice with a focus on that intersection with Indigenous and Aboriginal concepts of law. You can do up to 20 units, and if you do, you will have this concentration on your transcripts. Some of the courses that you can choose to take towards this concentration include reconciliation and ethical lawyering, residential school litigation, Indigenous economic development, negotiating Indigenous rights, the law of modern treaties, and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, just for a sample of some of the things that you can take. We also have a combined JD and Masters of Public Policy with our School of Public Policy, a combined JD and MBA with the Haskayne School of Business, as well as a very unique international energy law program, which allows you to get your JD in both the United States and in Canada. You'd spend 2 years in Canada, 2 years at the University of Houston Law Center, and you would earn a degree in both. And that is a unique program in Canada. I wanted to let you know we've got some really cool travel opportunities for students. One of them is Modern Treaties and the Law. This is a course that takes you up to the Yukon in the spring with two of our Indigenous law professors, where you're going to meet with experts in law in the Yukon, elders, people from government, and learn about what goes into actual modern treaties. The only really outstanding treaties we still have left in Canada are in northern BC and in the Yukon, and it's an incredible opportunity for our students to learn more about this process. We also have the London Corporate Law Summer Institute. This is London, England. I had a student in Ontario ask me, is this in London, Ontario? And I was like, no, this is the real London, where 2 or 3 of our business law professors take a cohort of students over to London, England in the summer, where you'll take 2 courses in corporate law with a real focus on representing Canadian business interests in international transactions in the UK, as well as in Europe and the United States. You'll also get to do a lot of fun things like go and visit the Inns of Court and various law firms and learn from some people who practice in these areas. It's a very popular program. I've already mentioned our certificate in common law in French, where you would spend the first term of your third year in Ottawa. And of course, we have a number of international exchanges and internships. This is a picture of one of our recently graduated students who was in Norway, had a wonderful time, but you can go to places like Mexico, you can go to Africa, many different places in Europe, as well as Oceania, places like New Zealand and Australia. And all of our travel opportunities for the certificate in common law in French, as well as at international exchange, take place in your first term of third year. The timetable deliberately excludes any required courses during that semester so that you can go away and not worry that you're missing out on the one time that course that you need to graduate is being taught. We have a number of research institutes at the University of Calgary. Faculty of Law. The one we are quite well known for is the Canadian Institute of Resource Law, or CIRL as we call it, and it is the leading national centre of expertise on legal and policy issues related to Canada's natural resources. The Alberta Civil Liberties Research Centre is also located within the law school, and it's dedicated to promoting awareness among Albertans about civil liberties and human rights through research, publication, and education. I'll mention the Alberta Law Reform Institute. It's actually housed at the U of A, but it does have lawyers housed also at the U of C Law School, and it is the primary law reform agency for Alberta. And just as of this year, and it's just getting up and running, is a brand new Center for Family Justice and Transformation. This is thanks to a $26.8 million gift from the Alberta Law Foundation, and it's a collaboration between the faculties of law and social work at the University of Calgary. The goal of the initiative is to move many family justice matters from the courts to a new process that supports families. Instead of starting at the legal dispute stage, families filing for divorce will be supported through a less adversarial process that helps them work through important decision making surrounding their divorce, including their children. And the approach looks to prevent trauma in children, removing separation and divorce from the list of adverse childhood experiences and having better outcomes for families. So it's very court focused. The good news is that these research institutes also provide summer jobs for our law students. So in areas that you're particularly interested in, you can apply to be an intern with these research institutes. I wanted to talk a little bit about equity, diversity, and inclusion at UCalgary Law. We do take this quite seriously. We have a faculty EDI committee made up of professors and students and staff. I personally sit on the faculty EDI committee. We have a Black and Indigenous pathway to law school. We do a 1L equity and diversity survey for our incoming class every year, where we gather some information to ensure that we are admitting a class that is reflective of the community that they will ultimately serve. There are a number of clubs that you'll see listed on this slide that continue to grow and reflect the diversity of our law school. 44% of our incoming first-year students this year speak 2 or more languages. 24% come from a rural background, and 86% are the first in their family to go to law school. We also run every summer an LSAT prep program for low-income students, and people can apply for that starting in February of the year that they want to go to law school, and it will take place over the spring and summer. We are the first law school outside of Ontario to offer this program. We've been doing it now for 6 or 7 years, and a number of people who might not have otherwise gotten into law school because of the expensive price of studying for the LSAT, quite frankly, and taking courses is ameliorated through this free LSAT prep course. It's taught by one of our upper year students who has achieved a 90% or over on the LSAT. So it's a good summer job for a student, as well as something that we do to help low-income students realize their dream of going to law school. Just a little chat about student life. I'm not the best person to talk about that. It's been almost 35 years since I was in law school. But I think that what you'll hear from alumni is that one of the great things about attending law school at UCalgary is that it's a very collegial place to go to law school. That it's quite a small law school. We take about 130 students a year. There's smaller class sizes. You'll get to know everybody in the law school, not just in your year, and form really strong friendships. But I also want to tell you that law school is really what you make of it. The more you participate in it, the more you open yourself up to the opportunities that are present for you, the more you will get out of your law school experience. I promised you stats, and stats you shall have. So these are our statistics for entering class this September. You can see that the average GPA was a 3.77. That's on a 4.0 scale. The average age of our students entering was 24 years old, and the average LSAT was a 164, which turns out to be about the 84th percentile. In any given year, we normally have about 30% of our students that come from outside of Alberta. We're one of the most national law schools in the country from that perspective. We'll see students from BC, Ontario, the Maritimes, the Territories, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, you name it. Our students, sometimes we're asked what's the best undergrad that you can pursue to go to law school. And I would tell you that anything that you're interested in is something that you can take before going to law school. You'll see in the stats that there were 56 different undergraduate areas of study in our class of first year students. And we're very proud of our articling placement rate, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a future slide here. This future slide. So you can see that we have a really enviable articling placement rate. And what articling is a year that you spend after you've gone to law school, where you're hired by a lawyer who has at least 10 years of experience. And it's like a mentorship where that person oversees your legal work and then recommends you to the Law Society to be called to the bar. And you can see that year in and year out, we have an incredibly strong articling placement rate. This is for 5 years, but it would be no different if it was for 10 years. We just have a very good articling placement rate. As I mentioned, about 30% of our students come from out of province, and this articling placement rate will reflect them getting jobs, not just in the Calgary market, which we tend to dominate, but also in other legal markets across the country, in the United States, as well as others internationally. Having said that, one of, I think, the real strengths of the University of Calgary Faculty of Law is our connection to the Calgary legal community. I always love this picture because these are two former students who then were coming back to an event to hire our students. And the person in the middle is our Director of Careers and Professional Development. And I think that our CPDO office is really a secret weapon for us. They know every legal market in this country cold, and they will help you to find a job in law that you want, not necessarily what everybody else wants, but what you want. This includes regional and smaller firms or working in public policy. They will really work closely with you to help you find what you're looking for. They will do mock interviews with you so that you're polished when you go in to meet with prospective employers. They will do CV review and host lots of different events for you to network with the legal community, as well as people who practice in different areas of law. We actually password protect our information from our CPDO office because so many law schools were using it because they didn't have information as good as ours. So it really is a wonderful resource that we have with caring and really engaged individuals that will help you with your career aspirations. Talk a little bit about applying to law school. For those of you that don't know, generally a student will have a full undergraduate degree prior to coming to law school. Our minimum academic requirement is the completion of 60 credits, which is typically 2 years of full-time study towards an undergraduate degree. But in reality, it is very rare for students to be accepted with less than a 4-year degree. One of the reasons for that is that we have um, such a number of applications for our 130 spots. Last year, over 1,600 applications for that. And we try to choose the most competitive individuals we can, taking into account all of the factors that we look at in admissions. And people who don't have that initial degree are generally not as competitive as somebody who already has a degree. And about 10 to 12% of our class in any given year has a postgraduate degree as well, a master's right up to a PhD. You can write the LSAT up until the January writing of the year that you're applying to go to law school. So for this year, the last LSAT writing that we'll accept is January, I believe, 13th, 2026. Even though we will accept that date, we do really encourage you to write your LSAT sooner than that. Because if you do need to rewrite it for any reason, perhaps you didn't get the score that you wanted, or that is competitive for admissions, there's no way to recover if the only LSAT you're writing is the January LSAT. I'd far rather people wrote that to rewrite the LSAT if they need to than to think about it as being their only chance. Another reason I recommend that you write the LSAT sooner than January is that we do make offers on an ongoing basis through the admissions period. And by January, we just don't have as many offers to give students. The vast majority of our files will go complete starting in January when people who are still in school provide us with their transcripts, which must be dated January 2026 and reflect the fall courses that they're taking. We have, as I mentioned, our first year JD application, an Indigenous student admission process, a Black student admission process. We do not have any discretionary admissions processes for mature students or otherwise. One of the reasons is that we very much value people's academic and work experience. So for somebody who is over the age of 30 and brings lots of different things to the table through their life experience, that's always considered a pro, not something that we need to give them discretionary consideration for. You can learn more about our Indigenous and Black student admissions processes as well as our general admission process on our website. Our application cycle is open right now. You can apply between September 1st and December 1st through our website. You'll see a big red button just like that one on the screen that you can click and start with your application. As I mentioned previously, the things that we're looking for is your academic history. That includes every post-secondary institution that you have attended, whether you've received a degree from there or not. You can include any academic or other honors, scholarships that you have won, or perhaps something that you've been recognized for in your community outside of academics. You'll include your LSAT account number and the date you wrote or are planning to write the LSAT, the LSAT. One thing I will just tell you about that is often you will put a date, say you're writing the November one, and then discover maybe you'd like to rewrite in January. You can't just do that without letting us know. If you've written in your application to us that your last writing is November, you need to write to us at law@ucalgary.ca and let us know that actually you're going to write again in January. Then we'll know to wait to pull your file and not assess it until then. We look at your employment history. We look at what we call non-academic pursuits. We really felt like extracurriculars might be a little too limiting in terms of what we're really looking for, and that there are people that we need to understand might not have the time or the resources to be involved in a lot of other things. They might be working part-time. They might have extraordinary unpaid responsibilities. So we'd like to know basically what you're doing outside of your academic pursuits. I actually had somebody in their application the other day put in non-academic pursuits that they were a boyfriend to their girlfriend. You don't need to do that, but I got a good laugh out of it. But if you have a stamp collection, be sure to let me know about it. There's also a statement of purpose and perspective. And I'll go into that in just a little bit of depth so that you get an understanding of what we're looking for with respect to this. So you're going to see on the application a choice of 9 essay topics, and we ask you to choose 3 of those topics. The topics that you choose combined will constitute your statement of purpose and perspective. The topics vary and include things like your academic interests, your lived experience, your participation in community, various things like that. I want to emphasize that no essay choice or combination of choices are preferable than any other, but what you should be really, really focusing on providing in those essays is information that we can't otherwise glean from the other aspects of your application. I always like to say that the formal application is kind of what you've done, and the statement of purpose and perspective tells us a little bit more about who you are. Don't forget to tie the things you're telling us about yourself to your interest in law. Sometimes people talk about them in a bubble, in a little bit of a vortex. And I think to make the strongest statement of purpose and perspective, you always need to remember who your audience is and make sure that you're showing and demonstrating that what information you're providing is making you a good law student for the admissions committee to consider. Once you've applied, you need to upload your unofficial transcripts from every post-secondary institution that you have attended. Our deadline for supplementary documentation is the February 15th, but don't wait that long if you can provide it to us sooner. As I mentioned, we get a lot of transcripts right at the beginning of January for students who have been in school in the fall, and we'll really start to be putting together more and more files for assessment starting early in January and going well into February and March. Please note we aren't going to update your transcripts for you. You need to update them yourselves. If you receive an offer from us, we will then provide you with further instructions to provide us with your official transcripts at that time. So I think I've really talked about everything on this slide. The only thing I think is that third point at the end. We know that nobody is perfect and nobody's going to have an application where there's no weaknesses and no flaws, or very few. We're all human and we've all stumbled at times. And I think that you need to understand that a strength in one area of your application can definitely overcome a relative weakness, but I'm really focusing and emphasizing a relative weakness. If you've got a substantial weakness, such as a very low GPA or a very low LSAT score, you should be realistic about your chances if you have no work experience whatsoever. These are the kind of things that you might want to let us know about in one of your essays and your statement of purpose and perspective, particularly if you feel that a GPA or an LSAT do not reflect your true abilities to succeed in law school. But again, you have to also be realistic about your chances, given how competitive a cohort can be. Please know that we do a form of rolling admissions, and all that means is that some decisions are sent out before everybody's files have been read. If we waited until February 15th to start reading files, you wouldn't hear from us probably till July. Given all the things that we look at in an application, we need to start reading them as they go complete. And I've already started to read some of those applications, even though the deadline isn't till December 1st. But do not panic. There is lots, and most of our offers will not go out until the bulk of applications go complete in the new year. Please remember to check your status in your student center. Sometimes we'll add something to your to-do list that isn't in your application, or you'll receive your decision letter ultimately there. We've had students waiting to hear if they were let in or not without checking for themselves in their student center. That is where we will communicate with you. So please remember to check that student center. If you receive an offer, you'll be asked to arrange to have an official transcript sent to us. And those can be digitally sent, but we will send you more information on that. And as you can see in my little box, I'm again emphasizing that it's your responsibility as the applicant to ensure that everything is checked off of your to-do list, and that your file goes complete for review. The tuition as of this year at UCalgary Faculty of Law is $18,205. We know that law school is not cheap. It is a very expensive proposition. But we do think that our tuition is very competitive with those of other law schools, particularly in Ontario. We don't charge more for anybody being in province or out province, and we don't have any um, thresholds for the amount of people that we will admit either from out of the province or inside the province. We just look for the best students that we can find in any of those given applications. There are lots of scholarships and bursaries and awards for students starting at or coming to UCalgary Law. And I emphasize this in all of my information sessions. Please, please, please apply for scholarships, bursaries, and awards. We do have some awards that we automatically consider you for through your application, but the vast majority of our awards, and certainly our bursaries based on financial need, are ones you must apply for. Every year there are people in my 1L class that I would love to give a specific award to, and they didn't apply for awards, which is required to get those bursaries and things. I think that students self-select because they think, oh, it's a law school. There's going to be people that are so much smarter than me. Um, don't sell yourself short. If you've been given an offer to law school, try to get over that imposter syndrome as soon as possible. It's an epidemic in professional schools such as law schools that you feel like everybody's probably more deserving of being there than you. The first place you can start to learn to get over that is by applying for awards. We really do try to provide awards to those students that need them most, as well as students who've performed very well. Of course, you are also able to take out student loans. Sometimes you can take out a professional school line of credit. But we know that law school isn't inexpensive, so we really want you to think really hard about if this is the right place for you. So in speaking of that, I never used to have a slide like this, but since COVID, I think it's become more important to talk up front to prospective students about supporting your own well-being and learning to develop resiliency. Law school is an intensive 3-year program, and it isn't for everyone. And that doesn't mean that you're not smart or you couldn't do it, but it's sometimes not something that is for everyone. Understand that you will be faced with difficult and sometimes triggering subject matter that you will not be able to avoid in order to learn the law. Try to learn to cultivate some acceptance for things you can't control and learn to be adaptive. Know what fuels you. Think about the things that you like to do and hang on to those. Engaging in those activities while you're in law school, even though sometimes it can feel overwhelming to try and get all your reading done, it's really important for you to continue to fill your cup and to do things that will help you to be a better student and to help your mental health. Be sure to establish regular positive habits and think honestly about the supports you might need to succeed and proactively put those supports in place. Does the law school have supports for students that are struggling? Yes, we do. We have a number of things, but That's for a lot of students. So think very honestly about whether this is something for you and or even if it's the right timing for you. If you've just had an upheaval in your personal life, if there's been the death of an individual, if you're recovering from a physical or mental issue, law school will be here when you are your strongest. So start to think about ways that you can make sure that you're as strong and healthy as you can be in starting law school, because it will really help you in terms of succeeding. So this presentation has covered some of the main points about what the UCalgary Law School experience might look like, what applying to the school looks like, but you'll find the most complete information available on our website. We do expect applicants to have reviewed that information before they come to us and ask us questions that they could easily find. Keep in mind that if we have a file with your name on it before you've started law school in our emails because you've asked so many questions, that's not a super good look. That doesn't mean that you can't reach out to us and ask us for help if you truly don't know the answer to a question, but we do look to see that you're a proactive and mature person. And being able to find some of that information for yourself is one of those things. I wanted to let you know about our student ambassador program. These are students in all of our 3 years of law school. You'll find them on our Law.Ambassadors website, webpage, and you can ask them all sorts of questions about law school. Uh, and they can talk to you about what that's like. As an administrator, it's harder for me to let you know. I think it's really effective to talk to people that are a couple of years ahead of you doing something that you're really interested in doing. And you can see their profiles posted on the Law Ambassadors webpage. They might be somebody who took similar studies to you in undergrad. They might be from a part of Canada or the world that you're from. They might be from a similar culture. So look and see if there are people that you can find to give you a tour and talk to you more about this student experience. If you are applying to us in this term, we do have virtual office hours. If you email us at law@ucalgary.ca, you can have an appointment with one of us on Tuesdays and Thursdays to talk about anything you specifically are interested in. Keep in mind that applications will close at 11:59 on December 1st, which I believe is a Monday this year. And thank you for listening to my presentation. We'll be happy to take any questions that you might have at this time.